So how do you create a brand that truly represents who you are and the products you sell, as well as building a business that you can scale online? That is what this podcast will help you do. My name is Henry Kaminski Jr., and welcome to the Brand Doctor Podcast.
Let me just make this statement loud and clear. Jersey's here, Jersey's here. 1, 2, 3, go!
What is shaking, everybody? Welcome to another Brand Doctor podcast. My God, the damn internet today has got me so pissed. So Optimum came into our town and bought the cable company that was giving us our internet. And there's billboards all over the town saying Optimum is here and is making smarter, faster online. I'm going to call bullshit to that because it took me 5 minutes, almost 10 minutes to get live because of the bandwidth. And I have like the highest package of freaking internet. So, so annoying. And I see John over here, 5 minutes has passed. Not good for your brand when you say you're going to do something. See how people are? Like, people, when you say you're going to do something, people want it done, right? So like your tools and you need to be reliable. So I am just like on a fucking tear right now to get this going. Well, I'm happy that everybody is joining us. I appreciate everybody here. It looks like John's in the house. Looks like Vision Board Music is in the house. So today, guys, we're going to be talking about business brand versus personal brand. What the hell do we invest in? What should we be focusing in on? And what does this all mean for our business at the end of the day? Is it going to bring in more business, or is it just a freaking waste of time, money, and energy? So I wanted to share with, I wanted to ask Oasis here for a second. I want to, first of all, before we get into that, I want to encourage everybody that's watching live to participate in the conversation. So if you have questions, if you have comments, we'll make sure that we feature you during the broadcast. So problems when it comes to picking a personal brand versus a business brand. What should we be branding? Oasis, what do you got?
Look, this is a conversation that I have had with clients for the past week, and new clients and even existing clients. One says, hey, you know what? I think it's time for me to back away because I'm expanding my company and I don't want to necessarily have your, I don't necessarily want to be the front face of the company anymore. Mm-hmm. So I asked, why is that? And I've gone through that same thing myself. It's like, look, I don't know. I don't want to inflate my image and make these grandiose claims that aren't necessarily representative of me. And I see that as kind of a common theme. Every time I talk to someone that says, okay, look, you know what? Yeah, it's great to have this business side of the brand, but who cares about the personal brand, right? But now, if you notice, what we're seeing more and more is that the ones that are leading with the ones that are leading their business, even if their business is comprised of 50, 60, 70 people or 250 people, but yet there's still a spokesperson that represents their business at a commercial level, it creates connectivity. It creates relatability. It enables us to now associate a human with their brand rather than something that is just a graphic. Yeah, unless that graphic is a frog or something that's an animated frog that just continues to show up, or like the Geico gecko that continues to show up, right?
Well, we got a bunch of examples that I want to get into later on, but I think some of the bigger issues that I've had, some of the issues that people have brought to my attention were, well, what if I try to sell the business and my personal brand is too attached to it and the business revolves too much around me? How do I ever sell it? Is focusing on my personal brand egotistical? Is it right? People that put their personal brands out there are attention. What do they call them?
Attention seekers, attention hogs.
Yeah. So I've heard all of these things in the past, and so I want to sort of uncover a lot of this and see. First and foremost, it comes down to who you are as a person. If you're not comfortable in the public eye, then don't do it. Yeah. Then don't do it. Then don't do it. Like, why do something that you don't want to do? Okay. Let's just call a spade, because you're never going to get good at it, especially if you don't like it. Right. So that's number one. Number two, say you want to sell your business and the business is too wrapped around you. Well, that's something you have to really think about, because if you have an inkling that you want to sell this business down the pike and exit it, then you have to keep that in mind when you're building out the internal structure of the business. So you have, who said business was easy? Business is not easy. These are hard decisions that we need to make. Now, I will tell you this from a personal experience. I've built my entire business around me, because I said from the beginning, I don't care if I sell this business or not. I have it structured where if I did want to sell it, I could, because it literally can operate without me. I don't need to be in my business every day. I've built out the infrastructure where I don't need to be there. But so I can technically sell Unique Designz, because that's I would call it the parent company of the Brand Doctor and what I do. But I think it's important to really ask yourself these questions up front. So I want to kind of go over some of the pros and cons of personal branding versus business branding. And let's hit those for a second, right? So I have here personal brands can evolve, and it's a lot easier to evolve a personal brand versus a business brand. A business brand, it'll be tough to pivot and try to deliver a completely different service. But a personal brand can evolve and do different things, which is, I think, advantageous of building a personal brand.
So what do you mean how do you define a personal brand evolving? Like, give me your case, because you've been doing this for a lot longer.
Yeah,
I'm literally just dipping my feet into the water.
I'll give you a perfect example. I was a graphic designer by trade. I still am for 14 years. But I could tell you, I haven't been in Photoshop doing client work in over 8 years. And so I've evolved my personal brand from designer to strategist. Right? Now, as I get older, I may want to go into more of a consulting role. So I'll evolve into the consultant role, or maybe the speaker role, and see how my personal brand is evolving over the years. I'm not doing anything different as a person per se, like my values are the same. My beliefs are the same, but I'm just doing different things. So you're going to follow me and my journey, and you're going to see how I went from A to Z. But if I try to make Unique Designz I'm really stretching here, but if I tried to make Unique Designz an HVAC company, that'd be tough. If I tried to make the Brand Doctor brand, an interior design company, it'd be a little tough to do, right? It's tough to make that transition. But Henry Kaminski, you're the brand doctor, that could be, I could evolve into different positions. Does that make sense? Was that helpful?
Yeah. So, and I mean, I see you playing those roles at this time as well. I mean, as a speaker, you're still getting out there, and of course, as someone that's constantly doing podcasts, things like that. I mean, so if you wanted, like, what you're telling me is that if you wanted to just 100% focus in on just being a podcast host, rather than just doing, just playing with each one of these positions, now you're able to do that and transition into that a lot easier, rather than doing something that's, just a business face of the business where, I mean, which is specifically associated with branding. Now you're trying to take that to interior design or something. That's definitely not going to work.
No, it's going to be really tough. But let's flip a coin and let's look at, personal branding. If you are a coach or a consultant or a speaker or an author or a personality brand of any sort, a comedian, I'm starting to listen to a lot of comedians on podcasts. Like I was listening to Two Bears, One Cave today. I was pissing my pants. I don't know if you know who Tom Segura is. He actually lives he moved from LA to Austin. I was thinking of you today when he said he moved to Austin. I know you're in Houston, but he's in Texas now. He's probably one of the funniest comedians I've ever watched. You could just go to Netflix and type in Tom Segura.
Look it up.
You'll piss your pants. But really diving into your personal brand and investing in your personal brand, if you're one of those types of professionals, is going to be really, really easy for you. However, business brands, we had this conversation yesterday when we were talking about this topic. They also have personas attached to them. Exactly. Right? I just want to feature here. Peter Butler here. It says, but it's fair to say not everyone needs to personally brand themselves if they have a business. No, they don't. They don't. So we were talking about Mattress Mac yesterday. You said that there is a local bed company by you.
Yeah. So, it's a local furniture company, and they've been around for probably 30, 40, 50 years. And if I have any Houstonians in the audience, I'm sure they're probably they know exactly who it is. So look, long before the internet, right? This guy, I would always see him in every single, whatever show we're watching, this guy would show up prime time in commercials. Mattress Mac saves you money, come to Gallery Furniture. So, I want
to see what this guy looks like.
I'll forward you the link. And obviously he's been doing this for such a long time, but the main thing here, the formula doesn't change. This guy knew that he wanted to represent his business. He had a tagline, and he just knew that through repetition, he would embed himself into the hearts and minds of everyone that's in the Houston area to say, you know what, if I need furniture, if I need a mattress, if I want to save money, this is where to go. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. And by the way, this by no means is a promotion for Gallery Furniture.
We have a company over here that sells discount furniture. It's called Bob's Discount Furniture, and they actually made a cartoon out of him, and he's got this beard, and he's running around the screen. And I don't know if Bob's in other states, but Bob's Discount Furniture, you got to go to Bob's, right? And that's the persona that they have revolving around that business. Now, there's a competitor that's literally across the street, Ray Moore and Flanagan. There's no personality to that brand whatsoever, and they do just as good. So you tell me, you know what I mean? So, but here's a couple of things that I want to point out, right? Couple of the things I wanted to point out was, at the end of the day, guys, well, first of all, I want to acknowledge Michelle Hollis here. She says, I feel like I'm doing this, and you really helped me with my Instagram engagement, and it has really made a big difference. Oh, that's awesome. Thank you, Michelle. Yeah, Michelle attended my Instagram masterclass a couple of weeks ago, and we went deep into optimizing and monetizing your Instagram, and we had a lot of fun. But At the end of the day, guys, I really want you to think of this big question, and it's, what do you want to be known for? And there's a couple of things here that I want to really, really point out is, what about your expertise? Your level of expertise, your level of knowledge, the quality of your work. How is it to interact with you? How about the delivery of what it is that you do and how you make people feel? That's huge. That's huge.
Yeah.
And so that needs to carry over, whether it's a personal or a business brand. Now, I will tell you this, and always, we kind of had this conversation literally in the last hour. You and I are kind of cut from the same cloth when it comes to standards in life. I like the best of the best, or as Cousin Dion would say, the best that I could afford. Like, I don't want to stretch myself, live above my means. So I'll get the best car that I could afford, right? I'll get the best watch that I could afford, or the best equipment that I could afford. And I won't do it at all. Right? And that translates over to business, where back in the day, I would take on clients because I had to take on clients because I needed to keep the lights on. That didn't work for me long term. And it almost shut my business down because I was taking on the wrong clients. So now I have a really stringent vetting process that I take my clients through. And if they don't want to follow the process, then we don't have to work together. And I will not compensate for that. I will not make any excuse for that. And if that means I go 5 months without a client, I go 5 months without a client. I don't give a shit.
Yeah.
There's no reason why you can't demand the best client or the perfect fit. And I gotta tell you, the process works, because every client that comes through and graduates the Brand Accelerator program, with an exception of maybe 2 over the past 24 months, was an issue. So I got to tell you, it works. But to my point is creating those standards and setting that and just drawing that line in the sand and saying, this is what it is. That's going to send out a frequency, and only certain people are going to pick up on that frequency.
Exactly. And look, it's not just about the outward expression of our standards through our brand, or through our visual brand, or through our material possessions, right? Mm-hmm. It's the follow through. It's the consistent follow through in the level of standards that we operate our business in, and in our deliverables to our clients. Mm-hmm. Because the clients that we serve, that both you and I serve, they're not paying, they're not investing into a low cost service. These are very high ticket items.
Yeah.
It's a high paid investment. And they will run the risk if they try to cut corners. So we're literally coming in here, making sure that we're operating at the highest standard, highest caliber standard, and we're not willing to compromise that. And that begins with the type of clients. Go ahead, Henry.
Exactly. No, finish your thought.
Yeah, and that begins with the type of client that we onboard. They had better be able to level up at that same sort of standard.
That's it. And quality will attract quality. And Absolutely. I feel like when I was working from an insecure, very self-conscious position, I was only attracting those types of clients. Because now looking back, I'm not going to name names, but those people were dealing with very similar issues to what I was dealing with at that time in my life. And, that's not coincidence, guys. That is not coincidence.
It will
right?
show up. It will show up in your branding, and it will show up in the way that you're introducing and projecting your business. And so you're either going to be leading your business with confidence, or you're going to be leading your business with anxiety. Which part of that equation do you want to be on?
Yeah. Yeah. I love Michelle. She's like, that's a mind blown moment. Actually, I love Michelle. She's the best. But it's so simple. And that was like the aha moment that I got when I said, I am in control of my client roster. My client roster is in control of me.
Exactly.
And that gives you your power back. You don't give your power away to people, especially if they're paying you high ticket to get a job done. Like
exactly.
they're counting on you to lead the ship. Right. Exactly. So, but here's what I will say about personal brands. Okay. It is a great way to leverage your authority. It is a great way to leverage your authority. And I think at the end of the day that your business brand is an offshoot. I mentioned this before, is an offshoot of who you are. And I think that's the point that I was trying to make before. I was just being long-winded about it. My values of quality over quantity, right? I don't need 5 cars in my driveway. I just want 2 nice ones, right? I don't need 50 clients a month or a year. I just want 10 great ones. My beliefs, the best or nothing. I'm stealing that from Mercedes, but that's really one of my beliefs. I'd rather not do it at all than do something half-assed.
Yeah.
So the last question that I have for the audience is, at the end of the day, how do you want to be perceived? How do you want to be perceived? And understand that you do have control over that. I was on a podcast last week and I was talking about my dad. Now, I love my dad to death, so I don't want anybody to think differently of this, especially if any family members or watch this. But my father loves to show up looking disheveled. I don't know what it is. He was born in 1942. So, being highly fashionable is not something that is on his radar by any means. And I'm not expecting him to show up to my house one day in like Ralph Lauren and like all decked out. I don't expect that at all. But this guy shows up like he is poor. And that always bothered me because he's the furthest thing from it. He's always been generous with me and my son and my wife, always been generous. But to the world, if you didn't know my father, you would think that he was like poor. And I don't think he gives a shit. Otherwise, I think maybe he would do something about it. But you do have full control over how you want to be perceived. Maybe he wants to be perceived like that so people don't think that he's got money. I might be throwing him under the bus right now, so sorry, Dad. But we all know, it's no secret.
Riding under the radar.
Yeah, and that's his prerogative. But the point is, he's controlling that.
Yeah.
He's controlling that. So here's a question from John. Let's throw this on the table. So what should you focus on selling? Do you want people to buy you, or do you want your business offers? That's a great.
I love that question.
Yeah, John, you teed me up for this one. So again, my opinion here, but I truly believe if people buy into me first, it doesn't matter how great my product or service is. Because I know people that went with other vendors other than myself because they established a better relationship. They had a deeper connection with that person. Now, I looked at that person's work, and obviously I'm going to say that I could have done way better work. But it didn't matter there was a personal connection there that was stronger than the personal connection that I had with that particular prospect, and they went with they went with the other person. So I'm going to say, John, I want you to buy into me first, because if you could trust me, then you'll trust my product or service. How about you, Awais?
So I have a question. I have a follow-up question to John's question. How do you humanize a brand that is not personally branded? How do you create that?
You got to ask John. You know what I mean? I wish we could bring John on. That'd be a cool feature. StreamYard, you need to get on that. Like we need to be able to bring people up into the video. Maybe there's a way to do it. No, I guess I could private message John the link and he could pop in. But here's something that I want to highlight real quick. Peter Butler saying that his parents are very similar to my dad. His father was born in 46, and his parents are part of the top 1%, and they dress like they're poor. Yeah,
it's a generational gap, man.
That's what he just. Yeah. That's what Pete said. Maybe it's a generation thing.
Yeah,
because really my dad could give two shits of what you think of him. I could promise you that. Yeah. But, okay. So moving down the line here, I have some notes here that I want to get to before we start to wrap up. I'm really enjoying this conversation, by the way. I could talk about this shit forever. But I think people need faces to names. I think people need faces to names. So like vision board music, that doesn't do anything for me. Like your icon there, and I wish, like I have a much stronger affinity to Thomas Lee and John Tubiolo because I could see them. Right. And here's Thomas, like, yeah. Right. So, right. And I see some comments going on right now in the comments where Vision Board's saying like, what does your logo say? And Peter's like, it's called Urban Creatives. Okay. Like, I think it's great to have a name of the company. Like we have Unique Designz, but when you think of Unique Designz or you Google it, my face is going to pop up. Right. And I think nowadays more than ever, people want to associate faces to names. They really want to connect with a person. I think the days of connecting to, just a name brand are long gone. I think people are going to start using, if they already do this, but people are going to start using brands because other people use those brands.
And it's transitioned down from the corporate level to now even at the small business level. Small, mid-sized businesses have to adopt that exact same thing because larger corporations have been doing this long before the internet ever existed. And that's what I keep saying this. We've talked about this before. Dave Thomas, the Colonel with Kentucky Fried Chicken. I mean, that guy actually went door to door with samples of his chicken, and just that's how he built up a following for his chicken. And like moving forward, Richard Branson with Version. Right.
I love that you're bringing up these names.
All these names.
I wanted to share with you something that I did over the past 2 days. I went out to dinner with my cousin on last Saturday, and he brought up this Netflix movie, Get On Up. I don't know if you ever heard of it. I think it was in the movies years ago. It's not that new of a movie now that I saw the date, but Get On Up. It's a movie on Netflix. I highly recommend you watch it. It's all about James Brown, like the godfather of soul. Yeah. And I love watching movies like this because I love studying personal brands. So like getting an understanding. Now, James Brown was way before my time, and he died in 2006. So I was only 26 years old, but I knew James Brown's songs, but I didn't know who he was as a person. I didn't know his life story until I watched this movie last night. I finally finished it yesterday. It's pretty long, but there was something about James Brown that struck me. Now, this guy grew up when it was rough to be African American. Let's just say that. I think it was in the 40s and 50s. Like, he was a young boy, and they showed some of the things that he went through. Now, again, I know that they do certain things for movies, but some of the things that they shared in the movie was very, very traumatizing. And this kid at 6 and 7 years old got through all of that and became James Brown, right? But I was telling my wife at dinner, one thing about James Brown that struck me right away was like, this dude knew what he wanted. And he was, Michelle's like, hit me. Get on up. Dude. So, but one thing about James Brown is, like, he set his standards very high. When he first got like signed, he was explaining to the promoters like how he wanted to do business, and he was not shy about it. And he was like, we're going to hire the best engineers. We're going to hire the best of the best, and we're going to get out there and do the best that we can. And even when things got a little tight for him at one point, where he owed a bunch of back taxes. They didn't really go into that, but owed a bunch of back taxes. His band walked out on him, and he had to find a whole new crew. And between those two things happening simultaneously, like, this guy could have threw in the towel and been done. And then as he got older, he went a little loopy, and he got thrown in jail again. He was in jail as a kid, but he was in jail again as an old man for a little bit. But he always kept looking ahead. He knew what he wanted, and he knew that he was going to make it happen no matter what. And I think a lot of successful personal brands, including myself, will have that mentality. And one of the big quotes of the movie, because it was said multiple times, and it was actually the closer of the movie. He used to say, "I paid the cost to be the boss."
Powerful.
And some of the stuff that he had to pay wasn't fun. But he did it. And that's why he is the godfather of soul. And he is the James Brown music is the most sampled music on the planet as of today. Well, as of when the movie was created, I think it's 2014. So just goes to show what James Brown has done with his personal brand, and sort of the psychology behind. I don't know if I would ever have like go through what he went through and been able to achieve what he was able to achieve. So, man, I highly encourage you to watch the movie. Get on up on Netflix. It was powerful, which leads me into the next segment of the show. And I want to point out something that somebody else said in the comments. Vision Board said something along the lines of, it is quicker to build a personal brand, he feels. And I will give you a huge shout out for that, and agree with that. When I changed my Instagram account from Unique Designz to the Brand Doctor, exponential growth. It was like overnight. There was a couple thousand followers a week coming in. It's crazy. So to your point, Vision, totally. But what do you think the 3 top most important things of building a personal brand is?
Henry, I'm going to say credibility, connection.
You got your cheat sheet over there, dude. You don't got to act like you don't know.
I scanned over there, but I was like, no, honestly, if someone was to ask me like what, and just like you were saying, hey, the minute that you changed from Unique Designz to the Brand Doctor, you saw exponential growth. I just started dipping my feet into this. You know, if someone was to say, "Oh yeah, when did you start this?" I would probably say it's been about 2 months since I started leveraging video and really putting myself as the personal brand and attaching that to my company. It's very fresh. It's very new, but I've already seen the momentum that I've gained off of that. I'm
And
talking about in terms of new clients.
I was just going to say, as a result, I'm not going to mention, you told me not to mention, but you landing a very awesome client because of the video content that you were putting out, which they resonated with. And I bet you in your Instagram following, there are another dozen people that are dying for you to come out of your shell and to share the real you. And absolutely. I bet you there's 12 more clients waiting to sign up. But until you do that, you know, you're going to keep them at bay, you know, which leads to this question, which I think, Owais, you may be able to answer this question better than me. What if someone like me, who's an introvert, doesn't want to be the face of the brand? We had this conversation earlier in the call, but do have a team starting from an onboarder to a brand workshop, strategists, web designers, and devs, etc. You're in a similar case, Owais.
Mindset shift. I have been in this exact same sort of a mindset and perception for such a long time. Hey, you know what? I'm going to stay behind the scenes and let my company brand just run, allow for that to run with it. Well, guess what? There's a cost associated to that, especially today. And you're probably noticing that right now. So I think that there definitely needs to be a step out of your comfort zone. You know, again, this was not a comfortable transition for me by any means. And there was this constant desire or this constant state of, fear of judgment. What's going to happen? And, we're wanting to position ourselves as experts. Am I putting out the most authentic, genuine content, the most genuine version of me out there? So, what I would suggest and what I would recommend to everyone that's going through that exact same journey and you don't know where to start, put down a list of questions, start practicing.
Find somebody to do it with.
Find someone to do it with. Find an accountability partner. Find someone that is a couple of years ahead of you, and see if they will guide you in the right direction.
Yeah. So getting back to the three most important aspects of a personal brand, and you touched on one there, Owais. I'm just being conscious of time too. We're going to wrap up in about 10 minutes, but there's three. There's content creation, the quality of it, social proof, and your network. So a couple things here. Content creation. I would never, ever, ever be able to land the caliber of clients that I now work with at this level had I not put out the content that I put out. I'll give you a quick example. Memorial Day Monday, I get a message on Instagram from a woman that said, I work at this company and I think the founder could really benefit from your expertise. He wants to set up a consult with you. He was listening to one of your podcasts, and she gave me the number of it, the podcast number. And she says, how do I move forward? I said, well, go to my website, book an assessment. And, that's the first step. So he goes and he does that. And I get on the call with him yesterday, and we're walking through the process. And he kept referring to videos of mine. I watched you in this video talk about this. And I remember you saying something similar in one of those videos that I watched on YouTube. So this guy must have dug in deep prior to getting on this call with me of who I am, what I stand for, and how I could potentially help him. And it was an hour call, and he moved into the Brand Accelerator Strategy Program by the end of that call. And our first session is tomorrow. And had I not put out that content, what would there be for him to grab onto? What would make him validate a $15,000 engagement? Nothing. So that's why I tell you content creation is so damn important, and putting yourself out there is important, especially if you're going to start to charge a premium for your service, because guys, this is no surprise, but if people are going to cut those kind of checks, and that may be a lot to some people, it may be a little to some people, they got to trust you, man.
Exactly.
Yeah, they got to trust you. Otherwise,
trust,
it's not going to happen.
Trust is that beginning, that foundation that everything else is built on throughout that entire engagement.
Mm-hmm.
And, I mean, the stuff that you're putting out there, Henry, or the stuff that any content creator is putting out there, is that initial mark of your prospective client to get to know you before they even get a chance to speak with you. And so in your case, there was a light bulb that just went off, I'm sure, when this guy was listening to some of your podcasts.
I got a feeling that was the case, because he was glued. When we went through the assessment, he was very glued to what I was saying, and he was very dialed in. And here's a guy that is Harvard trained. This guy is top of his class, right? And he trusts me, and I trust that I can help him. Otherwise, I would have said, I can't help you here.
Yeah.
But it was powerful that he kept referencing the content that I was putting out. So very, very important. Now, social proof is another one that I think we forget, or we don't put enough emphasis on. So the credibility, you mentioned it before, I have 2 Comma Club awards on my wall. I have CDs that I designed for Bon Jovi on my wall. I have great relationships with celebrity chefs like Fabio Viviani, and worked with Russell Brunson for 2.5 years working on the ClickFunnels brand. I worked hard to get that credibility, and that didn't come easy. I had to scratch and claw to get those types of clients on my roster. But look, it pays off. It pays off. And showcasing that credibility. We were talking about earlier today about demonstrating how you help other people.
Exactly.
The easiest content you could put out.
It's already there. Leverage it.
Yeah. Yeah. That's why you'll notice, I'll take a little snippet out of a work session with a brand accelerator client. I'll take out a little snippet, and I'll showcase the issue and how we're getting to the solution, without giving out proprietary information, of course, or confidential information. But people want to see how I work with other people. People want to see how people react to me. That's another big thing. How does he engage with his clients? How does his clients react to him? People want to see. People want to see. Now let's get to our network. Oh, unless you want to add to that.
I actually want to answer a question from Peter. Why would I change what's working now? According to him, his close rate has increased to about 95%. And so that's a great, again, this is a question, or a type of this question I get from a lot of business owners. It says, well, things are working. Everything's working now. Why would I change? Well, guess what? Everything was working up until March of 2020. And things dramatically shifted, right?
No.
How many businesses had to pivot at that point in time?
How many businesses went out of business?
Yeah. And how many Henry, I can ask you the same thing. And how many of us had our phones ringing by clients that actually wanted to stay at the forefront of their industry and saw this as an opportunity and said, hey, you know what? Let's recalibrate.
Mm-hmm.
Let's reposition ourselves and let's kick some ass.
Yeah. Last June, I had a $93,000 month because of, to your point.
Yeah. So whatever's working, I'm sorry to cut you off here, but again, I'm very passionate about this piece because what's working now is not necessarily what's going to work at the end of the year. It's not necessarily what's going to work in 5 years from now. I, as a business owner, have learned the hard way, and I have clients that have either learned the hard way or that they've been through these things over the course of the last 20, 30 years that they now have the ability to say, you know what, let's make some different decisions and let's make sure that we're prepared for the next one.
Yeah. Well, the way that I would answer this question, and this is going to be a jab. This is the way I like to keep things interesting. There's two mindsets. There's, if the wheel isn't broke, don't fix it.
Yeah.
And then the other mindset is, how can we make this wheel go faster? There's no right or wrong here. I tend to lean towards the latter. Well, yeah, everything is working great, but can I optimize it? Can I make it better?
Yeah.
And if I fail, well, at least I know what doesn't work. And then I either go back or I find another way. But I'll be damned if even if it is working, I'm always gonna, and that's just me. It's in my DNA. It's in my family's blood, I think, where once we set a goal and achieve it, we have to set another one right away. And it needs to be a little higher than the last one. And that was something that was told to me as a young kid. I asked my uncle, I said, what's the secret to success? And I remember sitting on his couch like it was yesterday. My feet barely touched the friggin' ground. And that's exactly what he told me. He said, once you achieve the goal, it's okay to celebrate, but you need to set another goal and it needs to be a little bit higher than it was prior.
Exactly.
And he did that for 50 years. My great uncle did it for 76 years, and here I am 14 years strong with the same attitude. And I think that's what elevates you as a brand, as a personal brand, and as a person is really not being okay with the status quo or what works. Like, I'm always going to push, and it drives my wife nuts. It does. She'll be the first to tell you, like, Henry drives me nuts because she likes to play it safe. And I'm like, well, I'm not a gambler. Let's just say something right now. Like, I don't gamble. I gambled $50 in a slot machine in Vegas once, and that was the last time. That was the last $50 I ever spent on gambling, because I lost it in about 6 seconds, and I was like, never gambling again. But what I will do is I will push boundary. I will push boundary. It's two separate things, right? But I will push boundary to see if I can outdo myself and become a better person, a better business, better dad, and that's my attitude. So to Pete's point, okay, we hit content creation, how important that is, social proof when it comes to personal branding, even business brands. I mean, these could be relevant for both. But how about your network? Who you surround yourself with? How important is that? You are part of some really cool groups. The Vistage, you saying you're part of Vistage?
Yeah. It's a peer advisory group for business owners.
Yeah. So I'm sure that has hopefully positively impact your career as an entrepreneur and your circle of influence. When I was thinking about this and how important it is, it made me realize why I hang out with the people that I hang out with on a regular basis. There's a reason why Chris Do and I meet once a month for the past 3.5 years consistently. Ask Chris, he'll tell you, you are one of my most consistent coaching clients in history because the guy's successful. The guy's created literally a multi-million-dollar online education platform in the creative space. I'd be dumb not to take his wisdom or pay for it to shave off years of trial and error. Right? I want to work smarter here, not harder, especially as I get older, right? But Christo, Roberto Blake is another person. I don't know if you know Roberto Blake, but YouTuber, speaker. I go to him to consulting all the time, not as frequent as Chris, but every quarter I'll throw him a few $100s and sit down with him for 90 minutes because he's got the pulse on social media. So I want to hang out with these guys, Fabio Viviani. I love this guy. He's been a client for years. But the one thing that I love about Fabio is his mindset. This guy was losing, I think he was doing at one point, but pre-COVID, he was doing like $2 million a week with all of his restaurants. And when COVID hit, listen to this, when COVID hit, I think he was down to like 450,000 a month or something like that. Now that's a huge blow, right? And for the record, don't quote me on these numbers. I don't want to get Fabio in trouble. But I was texting with him and talking to him throughout the pandemic. And this guy's mindset was, I'm getting through this. I'm getting a beating of a lifetime, but I'm getting through this. And now things are picking up. He opened up a franchise down in South Jersey, a chicken franchise he did a pop-up franchisee, like if you want to buy one, and he had like 23 people show up to buy one. Now, I don't know if that went through, but it just goes to show things are picking back up again in the restaurant industry. I just saw he posted on Instagram that he's opening up 2 new restaurants in New York City, which I'm going to love because it's right next door to me. But this guy's mindset, I said, I want to hang out with Fabio for the rest of my life because that mindset has rubbed off on me. He says it how it is. He's not afraid to speak his mind. And regardless of trials and tribulations in your life, you will march forward. This guy came from Italy with nothing, and built a multi-million-dollar empire.
He's ready to persevere and not stay complacent.
Yeah. So you got to, if there's anybody in your life right now that is just like weighing you down and just like the barrel of bad news all the time, I hate to say it, but that's the cost to be the boss. Is sometimes you have to distance yourself. You have to distance yourself or remove them permanently.
So like I said, drop those anchors.
Yeah.
Drop those anchors and propel forward. So
you'll be able to go that much faster and that much more efficient. So, man, exactly. I knew this topic we were going to go in all sorts of directions, but I think the audience definitely got a lot out of this conversation. At the end of the day, if you were to ask me business brand or personal brand, I would say do both. Doing both in tandem are very, very important. Listen, you got a personal brand, whether you like it or not. So if your values and beliefs are aligning through your business's messaging and the way it's showing up online, you're going to be just fine. But if there's a disconnect there, if you're hiding behind the other, or those values aren't aligning, that's where you're going to run into a lot of issues, and it's going to be a lot harder for you to grow and build. And that's just the truth.
And I think there needs to be a little bit of a journey inwards in order to really define that. I think sometimes business owners don't really take the time. That's why they come to us, right? They don't necessarily take the time out to identify, again, that mission, that purpose, that vision, their values. What really are those standards that they operate by, that they know that they operate by, but they haven't really taken the time out to acknowledge or recognize much of that. And so when we're able to extract that and say, hey, look, this is all that's representative of you. Now let's build a visual identity around it. Now that there's some substance.
Yeah.
Now there's substance that's really carrying that brand on over. So like you said, Henry, I mean, even if there isn't a personal brand that's front facing along with that business brand, you still have alignment. You're still able to have that substantial alignment that carries you over and connects with the customers or your ideal clients that you want to connect with.
Amen. Amen. Yeah. Yeah. Michelle says this too. What happens in your personal life will show up in your business as well. It's just, it's inevitable. So, at the end of the day, you got to know who you are, who you're not, how you want to be perceived, and really lean into that. And I think that is going to help you tremendously connect with the people that you're meant to serve. Right?
Yeah.
And that's the key. I think when you start to deviate from that, that's when you're going to get yourself in trouble. And I've been there, done that, got the t-shirt, not fun. It's a big, costly mistake, and I will never do it again. That's why I'm so passionate about my process, and I'm so reliant on it, because if it's just it has helped filter out the wrong fits. I'm not gonna say wrong people, bad people. They're not bad people. They're just the wrong fits. And we got a visitor, Gimpy over here. His poor leg. Look at him. All right, guys, we're going to wrap this up, but I just want to thank everybody that joined us live today, from John to Michelle to Peter to Thomas, everybody that were a Vision Board Music, everybody here chiming into today's conversation. It was awesome to hang out with you guys. Mondays and Wednesdays, 2 p.m. Eastern is when we go live on these platforms. And appreciate you, John. I appreciate you staying to the end. And sorry for the tardiness. I'm gonna have a sit down with Optimum.com and make sure that it doesn't happen again. Otherwise, they might get a schmig. But I appreciate all you guys. And for those folks that are interested in getting more clarity with your brand to help you connect with your ideal client, I highly recommend that you head over to uniquedesignz.net and book an assessment with me one-on-one, and we will get down to the nitty-gritty, get you some clarity that you need to step forward and to start making the strides that you want to make in 2021 and beyond. So that's all I got, man. So have an amazing day, guys, and we'll catch you on the next one.